I'm going to explain my channel ecosystem in a way that makes the rest of it make sense. Everything I'm doing is living architecture and biomimicry. That means I'm trying to build structures that behave more like ecosystems than like dead construction. I keep asking the same question in different forms. How did God do it? How does a forest keep working without a maintenance crew? How does a system recycle its own nutrition? How does it stay wet without drowning? How does it keep breathing? And the core physical thing I'm building this year is a modular living parts system. I have two names for it right now, at living parts or at grow parts. I have both. I have to pick one. Modular means like Legos are modular, little modules that click together into a larger thing. Except Legos are dead, inert material that don't grow or produce anything. They are made out of a toxic chemical that is poisoning the planet. And Legos are male on the top, female on the bottom. My blocks will be male and female on all six sides. Any face can connect to any face. When two blocks click together, it exposes the mycelium of the two and the root systems of the two, and they grow and they fuse into a single thing. But here's the cool part. Where they click together, there is a hole that leads into a channel, a tube that snakes through the block. So the interior of the structure contains all this air so that it never ends up waterlogged. It's not just for ventilation or aeration for the mycelium and the plants, which is necessary because the mycelium will suffocate otherwise. It's also because you are growing trees and plants throughout this whole structure. And they spike through parts of it, but they prefer to grow through empty spaces guided by the light shining through them in the air. So they snake through the Swiss cheese puzzle. They snake through the holes to form a basket shape that sticks leaves out everywhere, every which way out into the exterior of it. So it becomes very bushy looking. If you ripped off all of the substrate and the fungus, which don't do that, you would see a wood basket, a living tree basket that's a dome shape. That's the igloo. And you can grow this in whatever shape you want when it'll last forever, because mycelium is practically immortal. Now here's the constraint that makes everything else real. Water. These structures rely on water. The mushroom part breathes oxygen and breathes out carbon dioxide just like you do. It needs substrate that is constantly moist. We don't want it to ever dry out, but we also don't want it to waterlog. Communities need a water source. That's tough in a desert or places where water is seasonal. So one of the most important channels is at Garden Fountain or at Fountain Farm. I do have both. These channels are about installing and testing water infrastructure that makes living architecture viable. I'm talking about enormous absorbent structures that hold a ton of water, a literal ton of water. Sometimes it's a well, sometimes it's a fountain, sometimes it's above ground because the water is accessible above ground. Sometimes it has to spike down like 100 feet to the aquifer or something. In some places you might do that by ripping out an invasive tree that is spiked that far down to the aquifer. In a lot of places, there's a high enough water table, you can just spike it down, and it won't be very difficult. It'll be more involved in places like the Coachella Valley. And a fountain is not just water sprays into a pool. Sure, that can happen, but it's also an enormous moist absorbent structure with roots or capillaries or tubes or cables, like enormous cables, and that stay moist and lead underground or into the ground. They lead all the way to your little domicile, your little garden home. The blocks need a certain amount of moisture. So the capillary line, the capillary cable plugs into the fountain. You have to plug your house in. But it's not electricity you're getting when you plug it in, you're getting water. That capillary faction is the community channel for the people who are obsessed with this and want to build it. Capillary action is the process by which your newspaper becomes soggy. If you leave just the corner of it in your coffee, the entire newspaper gets equally wet. That's capillary action. My living architecture depends on capillary action. Part of the long-term idea is we rip out invasive trees and weeds that have spiked their roots all the way down to the aquifer, or use termites or whatever method, and replace their root systems with our capillary materials so that the capillary system soaks up the aquifer instead of the roots. Then the top of our giant newspaper, the top of our enormous buried capillary structure, stays moist. We can wring it out. When we wring it out, that creates empty space, which drives further capillary action. So it gets wet again because it pulls more water from the aquifer. If you're thinking, okay, but how do I get usable water at my house? The model in my head is a reserve system. Your house has a certain amount of liquid water. There's a part of your house that is an enormous sponge. It fills completely. Then a big weight falls on it, and it squishes out the water into your tank. Then the sponge inflates again, expands to full size, water pours into it, and that drives capillary action upstream, ultimately pulling more water up from the aquifer into the well, into the fountain. The sponge's wood fibers, myceliated wood fibers, very spongy, reinforced with steel mesh or whatever else we need, and reinforced with the trees that grow in. A Swiss cheese puzzle, but alive.
I want affluent normies to walk by the skid row and feel jealous, like I want a home made out of orange trees. To someone help me to
prove it, package it, and deploy it. At Living Architecture Lab is the lab notebook for builders. Recipes. Now that the physical backbone is clear, here are the channels that prove it, package it, and deploy it. At Living Architecture Lab is the lab notebook for builders. Recipes. Sterile workflow, computer-assisted design iterations, and tests, failure logs, measurements, repeatable protocols. This is the evidence and method backbone. This is the stuff serious people share with each other because they are excited by something that works, that they can see. This works, and this is how it works. At Make Lives Happen is the flagship proof channel. These are the people that we have hooked up with Living Architecture. We've built them a garden igloo. It looks just like an igloo because it's white fuzzy mycelium for about a week until it sprouts all the crops that they're ever going to need and turns into a garden like a hobbit hole, a garden dome, and sprouts mushrooms on the inside, crops on the outside, videos of the houses being built, remodeled, time lapses of everything growing, and testimonials, people saying, I love this, you made my life happen. At Garden Igloo or at Igloo Farm is where we post footage of garden igloos and farms growing out of igloos. Farm blankets is the survival trick for desert reality. I have all this stuff outside that has to survive the desert. Stuff dries out pretty fast. I've been throwing blankets on top of mycelial colonies and myceliating blocks. And I think it's very stupid that I'm not building what I imagined years ago, an interwoven support system for mycelium and for seeds and plants. So it's always myceliating, always sprouting new sprouts, like a quilt, thick, retains moisture really well. You drape it over everything that needs to stay moist and doesn't require direct sunlight. At Myceliated Cardboard is the Materials Hero channel. Cardboard and plastic are really like my bread and butter. It's perfect for mycelium. Mycelium in the wild, it grows on wood fibers. A tree falls in the woods. And here's the rest that they never told you. It dissolves into a million little pieces and forms a pile. And that pile, mycelium. It's perfect for mycelium because it holds roughly equal quantities of wood, water, and air. That soggy log becomes the spongy forest floor. Fungus grows throughout, super symbiotic with the plants in the forest, the foods we eat, the medicines we rely on, and more importantly, it's symbiotic with the tree. That's why a forest works. It doesn't just suck all the nutrition out of the ground and then stop. Mycelium is why, so by creating cardboard, we interrupted that cycle. And all I'm doing by using cardboard is restarting the cycle. It's like trees fell all over your city in the shape of igloos. And they grew a forest, and that forest grew food. And you never went to the grocery store again. In fact, you threw apples at the guy who started the grocery store. Now, the small help layer that rides on top of the big system is a dignity kit. This is all the ideas that can help people in little ways along with the big ways. The idea is when I hook someone up with the igloo, or build a garden wall around their tent, or install a fountain that connects to the aquifer in their whatever version of Skid Row they live in, I also hook them up with small practical tools. One hero product inside that is a bite-brush, a tooth.
The living blanket to the quilt.
Brush that is in the shape of your mouth, a U shape. You put it in your mouth, and as you bite it, it brushes your teeth. A chew toy that brushes your teeth. Maybe it tastes good or it fizzes. And when it runs out of fizzing stuff, it's still useful. You just use toothpaste or beer. I'm only going to start that channel up if I'm actually shipping and testing it this year. User testing, people reacting like, wow, that's cool.
Brush your teeth with beer. Here, Take this U-shaped toothbrush. Ooh, it's fizzy. It'll run out of fizz sooner or later, and then you'll just have to brush your teeth with beer. Here, take this U-shaped toothbrush.